Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial. I'm glad I'm able to make it eventually to record this tutorial. So we are going to be looking at using Corona inside 3ds Max, and it's going to be brief, short, and very informative. So the image at the background, of course, is a rendering, but it's done inside V-Ray. So we are going to be using Corona. What I used to tell people is it doesn't matter the software you use to render. What matters is for you to know what to do when you want to render, and that is much more important than the software, because if you don't know what to do, then you won't know how to do it, definitely. So having said that, let's just dive into what we are going to be working on. So we are going to be working on this project. So like I said, you can do whatever you want with any software. This rendering was done, this is 2024. So if I could remember correctly, it should be in the year 2021 or early 2022. So it was done as a matter of looking for how do I want to put it now, inspiration, and create a portfolio for the office. So I got to the office one day and I told one of the guys in the office to come up with a design. So we started looking at it. Basically, the design is for portfolio. We didn't have any clients that requested for it, so we were able to actually do some things that they are not functional, but yet they are very good, at least for rendering sake. So since we are not under any obligation to make it for a client, so we didn't bother to focus on the architectural design aspect really, but on the rendering and the exterior, the facade. But on the plans, there are some little things that can change. But anyway, we are going to be, this was done using V-Ray, but we are going to be using Corona to create the one we want today. This is the evening view. Very cool. I like it. So we are going to be working on that. Before I go on, if you are in Nigeria, of course, some people will have the opportunity to watch this video maybe in the next 2 years. So this is not applied to you. But if you are in Ibadan, Nigeria, or you are around Ibadan and you want to have a physical training, then we have a training coming up. Today is 25th of November, of September rather. So we have a training coming up in less than 4 weeks now, and is on the 21st to on the 8th of, was it 24 to 8 or 18? The person that made this flyer made some mistake. It's supposed to be sorry for this, it's supposed to be 21st of October. Yeah, 3 weeks. So he didn't make a mistake, to the 8th of November. He didn't just put November there. So of this year, yeah, 2024. So October to November. So 3 weeks, starting from Monday, then ending on Friday, 8th of November. So it's purely going to be Corona workflow, Revit, 3ds Max, Corona and Photoshop. Of course, we are going to be looking at artificial intelligence, some AI, stuffs are going to be there, and also we have the prices. So we are using 3 weeks, and if you already know Revit, that means you are only going to be doing 2 weeks. So this is the breakdown of the fee. So the first week, which is basically Revit training, is going to be 80,000 naira. The second week, which is going to be basically exterior, is going to be 100,000 naira, and the third week is going to be 100,000. If you are doing everything all together, then you have a discount of 80,000 naira, so you are only paying 200,000 naira. Of course, this is the link, or you can get in touch to register. So but if you check this link, you will be able to register for it. So it's basically, going to be a very in-depth tutorial that after you finish, then you'll be able to handle many projects. So having said that, let's just go and open our file. So I've prepared the file very well in such a way that there won't be too much issues when we get to 3ds Max. So it's opening. I think it's a little bit heavy, and ignore this. I think he imported an AutoCAD file then, or thereabout. So I've also adjusted some little things about the model. Nothing much anyway, nothing much. So don't let me stress on that. Nothing too much, So I open this place up. That's all. So now one of the things I was saying is, if you check the ground floor, you see that we have the entrance, we have toilet there, and we have the anteroom here, of course. So if you check, you'll see that having the toilet here, in the front of the building, for this kind of design is really not it. But it's for practice for him, and I didn't dwell on that too much because I was only concerned about the facade. We will have arranged it in such a way that it will be much more better than that. Apart from that, I think we are cool. So let's just jump into the modeling. So when you want to export your work from Revit, now we are using Revit because according to the statistics of the people that registered for the webinar that is turned to tutorial now because of the technical issues that we had, we have about 74% of people that registered knows how to use AutoCAD. 73 uses Revit, and around, if I'm not mistaken, around 30 something percent use SketchUp, and less than that use ArchiCAD. So it's only it only makes sense for us to use a Revit file. Now, if you don't know how to use Revit, then I'm going to be introducing you to something later. So let's just leave that one for now. So I've prepared everything. If you notice, I've applied materials to all the places that I think are necessary. So whether you are using ArchiCAD, you are using Revit, you are using AutoCAD. Some people use AutoCAD to model very well. One of the things I would say you should do is apply all your materials the way you want them to be. Now, it might not be this material that you will end up using in 3ds Max, but make sure that material assignments, for example, now if you have planned to actually have this type of material, whatever you choose, maybe brick or paint, if you want to have the same type of material at this side, then you should have applied that material, because it's going to make things easy for you when you begin to work in 3ds Max. And that what I mean is this: so you apply it if that is what you want to do. You get what I'm saying? So, I want to have the same material to flow this way. Make sure that you do that. One of the major challenges with this design, as good as it is when he was doing it, he didn't consider something. There's a way when he was designing rather, there's a way I let the design and the materials flow together when I'm designing. So I'm going to show you a typical example of what I need from here. So I'm going to check this particular design. So okay, let me quickly pause and check it. So okay, let's get that those images back. So now look at this image. Sorry, that's not the one I want to show. So look at this. You'll see that this side is pure black, and the reason is because these things happen quite often, that the file you receive from the client, you discover that client did not plan the material assignment very well, and there's nothing you can do to that. To be honest, is the client's design, is what he puts there. So going back to the architect to tell him that you feel something is not right might actually create some, issues. So you just have to work with it. So personally, if I'm designing this, maybe I will have cantilevered this place a little bit, so that when this material that is coming from here is coming to be that black paint all through here, this one is recessed, this one is recessed, it will be white, and the upper part will be white as well, so that there will be that flow of material with the recesses and the cantilevers. But sometimes you don't have power over that. You can see what I'm saying here. You see how this material comes, how everything comes together. It's obvious that this design was done with material in mind as it's being created. So we have this recess and it's white, how that white actually enters into that black wall, and everything is okay. Even as good as this is, there's still window alignment problem there. So there will always be some little issues with design, but yet it's always better to actually look at all these things. You can see how the materials airflow, the material at the border here, everything was just really considered. Of course, I didn't design the building, but I designed the facade for it. So, and you can see at the back here, you can see how that veranda that recessed half white in contrast to the gray material. And if you look at the front view again, you see that we have a gray wall here and a black one here. So it's actually those contrasts and the way they work really well together. You can see at this side also the way everything flows. So I always encourage people to actually consider the way they arrange their materials, so that everything will flow well, and there won't be it's just going to fit. I don't know which proper word to use, but I believe you understand me. There will be a balance. Yes, thank you. That's the word, a balance, for the materials. So it's very important. In this, we don't really have it. That's why when you look at the building from this view, of course it's still looking good, but you will really not appreciate it as you would when you look at it from this front, because from this front you can see the form came out with the materials. Everything was just really on point, unlike this, the form is not really coming out well in this part. Of course it's still good, it's still looking nice and all that, but you get the point that I'm making. So I will have changed some things here, but sometimes it's just better to leave it the way it is. I don't want to spend too much time, especially when it's not a design that is going to Tanglani, it's not for any client and all that. So it's not going to, well, it might be built one day, we never can tell, but right now it's not designed to be built. So we are not under any obligation to stress ourselves. So I've explained too much, and this is about 14 minutes already. So let's just move straight into 3ds Max. So I'm going to open it, and we're going to start working. So opening 3ds Max. While 3ds Max is opening, if you don't know how to use Revit, then let me show you something that I think will be beneficial to you. Now, for the webinar that is turning to tutorial now, quite about 350 people registered, and a lot of them registered because of what I want to show you. They went through it. They really appreciated it. We have about 800 to 1,000 people last year that registered for the for the training, and they went through it. It was free of charge, and they went through it, and really it was really helpful to them. Then when they saw that we want to have another webinar, they quickly signed up for it because they know the quality of what they are going to be getting. The internet is messing up right now. Maybe I'm going to show you later. So if you are new to 3ds Max, then there are some things that will happen when you open 3ds Max for the first time. But in this, because I've been using it for a while, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. But the important things you need to do when you open 3ds Max, of course, when you install it for the first time, it's going to bring some questions like you should choose the standard or something like that. Then of course it's going to pop up this. I mostly close this. So when it brings that up, you definitely know what to do. There are some things that you're seeing here that possibly you will not have on your computer. For example, if you did not install V-Ray, you will not have this V-Ray toolbar. I use about 4 plugins that I put here, the Copitor, the Relink Bitmaps, the Driver Master for animating cars, and the Polygon for getting materials. But don't worry about those ones. Apart from those things, if you have installed your Corona, use the Corona toolbar here. Of course, it will be floating actually. When you install everything, when you install Corona for the first time, everything will be floating like this. Even V-Ray will be floating like this. So what I used to do is drag it from this angle and dock it there. I like to make sure that everything is well arranged. So dock this and dock this too. So that's why they are arranged that way. So now when you get to your interface like this, the first thing you need to do is to go to customize and choose unit setup. Make sure that you change your unit from generic unit, which will be the default, or it might not be default on your own anyway, but whichever way it is, the unit that you are used to. Let's say you are working on your AutoCAD, on your Revit, on your any other modeling tutorial, and you want to design, the unit you use. So if you are used to that unit, then I will say you should use that unit also here. In this case, I use metric. Some people will have to use US standard, fractional, inches, and all that, but I use metric here, and I'm used to millimeters. Some people are used to centimeters, meters, and all that, but I use millimeters. So I'll set the display unit scale to millimeters and also to system unit scale. Make sure that you set both of them. So I set it to millimeters as well. So I make sure that what I have in the display unit is also what I have in the system unit. I don't want to waste time too much because I know the time is already going. So that's why I don't want to explain what each one of them work for. So after you set that, I think it's also important that you set your preferences. When you open 3ds Max for the first time, you come to preferences. Really, these days, this is the only thing I set. So the levels, the scene undo levels. So what does that mean? When you make a mistake on your 3ds Max and you want to undo, you press Ctrl Z, every time you are undoing. And when it gets to 100 times, you are undoing backwards 100 times, it will not undo again. So it's really, really rare anyway to see somebody that will make the mistake up to 100 levels like that before you realize it, but it can happen. So sometimes I even try to make it 500 to be on the safer side. You never can tell. You can get lost, walking, and all of a sudden you realize that what you are doing is wrong. So, but sometimes it still doesn't work because if you are pressing it, continuously, and it will not respond again. So 3D Max have some little ways it affects the way you work. Every other thing, I used to set all this before, but now 3ds Max is very, very efficient, unlike 2-3 years ago. So many of the things that I used to set before, I don't set them any longer. Now, having said that, let's see if the internet is back. So it's not back. So let's just continue. We want to import our Revit file. We'll click file. So there's one thing I forgot to tell you. So let me quickly go back to Revit and tell you that. So if you want to export or you want to take your job to 3ds Max, one major thing you need to do is to come to manage and click on this little icon here. It's called purge or used. Now here we have 0, so there is nothing to purge, but I can assure you it's because I've purged this one. You know, it has been used before. So on your own you will see a particular number here. So that's a lot of numbers. You know, it depends. It can be 100, it can be 10, it can be 2000. Depends on how heavy your file is. Make sure you click OK. So it will purge your file. Then you'll go back to it again. You'll purge it, and the 3rd time we are going to do the same, and you can even try the 4th time until you see 0. So what is happening is there are some files that are in your project but you are not using. So they are just there, they are not in the project. You cannot see them physically in your project, but they are loaded into the project. So you need to purge them because they are going to make your file unnecessarily heavy, and that's what we just did. So now we are cool, we are okay, and we are ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just click import and click link Revit. Note what I chose, link Revit. We can choose import to bring Revit file in. We can choose link FBX, but I chose link Revit because I'm using Revit 2024 and 3ds Max 2024. So if you are using, let's say, a lesser version of 3ds Max and a higher version of Revit, then you have to go to Revit and choose export and choose FBX. And when you choose FBX, you can see it's using FBX 2015 and previous. You can see because that's lower. So if your 3ds Max is lower than 2015, maybe you will just choose FBX, but I'm okay with this. So I'm just going to go to the desktop and go to the Corona webinar and just save it there. So now as it saves, if I come to 3ds Max and I click import, I can click link Revit, link FBX rather, and go to where I have that. This is the FBX file, so I can click open, and it's going to load a little bit. The challenge with FBX is it seems like a little bit heavy in some ways. So now it's asking how do we want to import this. It's asking to combine by Revit material. So I'm going to click attach. So that's the default. So it's going to load, and depends on how powerful your computer is and how, you know, the file, how heavy the file is going to determine how, you know, how fast it's going to load. Now when we bring it in, it's telling us this. Now this only happened on FBX, I guess. It's saying that it is, you are creating a daylight system. Now what that means is your file in Revit is actually, you know, when you render it to be daylight. So that's what is happening. It is recommended that you use physical exposure control to set the value. The exposure value of EV is equal to 15. Exposure control settings can be adjusted from the environment and effects. So we like to change it now. It doesn't really matter. So you can choose yes, you can choose not to set it. The reason I say you can choose yes or choose not to set it is because we are not going to be using the lighting system that is coming from Revit. We are going to be creating our own from Corona. So definitely the lighting system will still delete it eventually. So either yes or no does not matter. So, and when you bring it in, this is the way it looks. You can see. So there are all these there's a name we call them, I can't remember, so but we have them there. So there's no problem about them yet. So let's select each object. So each object with each material. So now this is the problem. This particular file, I don't know what's happening here, but this and this have the same material on them, and you can see how it combined them. So that's the problem I have with that preset. It will combine everything, and if I have to change the material and I don't want to give them the same material, I won't be able to do it. But if you apply your materials very well, it can be very useful. You can see all the walls that have this material are separated. All these are separated, and that's the problem. I don't want to have the same material with the fence, so I don't like using this method. So I'm going to actually come back to file and choose reset. Reset means that I want to get rid of this file. Do you want to save? Don't save. Are you really what? Do you really want to reset? Yes. So we get back to this. Then let me go and import it back. So I'll choose link Revit. Of course, I can still choose this, but since I prefer to work with Revit, so let's just choose Revit. This internet is not really showing any good effect. Now, when you want to import Revit, you can see the difference. Some cameras have already been created. I can show you here. If you go to 3D view and you go like this, you'll see that it actually created a lot of camera views, 3D section, some camera views. So all those cameras, 3ds Max is going to detect them, and these are all the cameras, a lot of cameras actually. And 3ds Max is saying which camera should it import with, but I don't bother about that because I'm going to delete all those cameras and create new ones inside 3ds Max. So what I'm going to do is I'll just choose 3D. So it's just like 3D view, normal perspective, and I'll click OK. Then, you know, our problem was combined by Revit material. Right now, I'm just going to choose do not combine entities, and I'm going to attach. So now I'm going to be stopping this tutorial from here. In the next tutorial, we are going to be starting, you know, by applying materials, and after that, we'll move on to what is next. So now we have this. Everything looks somehow right now, except you zoom to it. So we have all these details. Most of them are due to graphics card, because the application that I'm using to record this tutorial is using the graphics memory, and software also is using its own. So there's a workaround about it, but it's not going to be happening every time. And when I apply materials, everything will be all right. So I just leave it like that for now. And before I actually stop, let's set the viewport. Now, if I click here, you can see where my mouse is, and I click to zoom. I can zoom at the viewport, and you can see I have sorry, you might be hearing some noises. So there's a construction site, you know, opposite us here, and we cannot stop them from working. So there are heavy vehicles that are bringing, you know, iron rods and all those things, and that's what is actually you are hearing in the video. So now you have 4 viewports, and what that means is you have top viewports here. So if you have done technical drawing, you will know third angle projection and all those things. So we have top view, we have front view, we have left view, and we have perspective view. So if you look at the top view, you see that we have all these grid lines. You can press G on your keyboard to remove the grid lines. You can see them. So now we have removed all the grid lines. The stuffs are looking clearer, and also you see that we are looking at it in wireframe mode. We can change the mode to default shading, so you can see the difference here. So, and you can see in this perspective, we are not even seeing it, having this issue. So it's not a big deal. So now we are okay with this, but we are having this white background that I don't like. But before I change any other thing, I like to work with just 2 viewports, not 4. So I'm going to change it from here, standard viewport, and I'm going to change it to 2. You can see. So we can press G again to remove the grid lines, and I can turn this one to perspective or orthographic, view with this view cube. And I need to do some cleanups before I end the tutorial. So I'm going to click on one of the cameras. The cameras are too much, and I'm going to right click and choose select similar, and I'm going to press delete on my keyboard. I've deleted those cameras, and I'm going to do that same thing to the sound system that we have. This is the sun, but I will not use this sound, so I'm going to actually remove it. And also we have this origin. Well, we don't need it, so we have pure file. Now I'm supposed to delete this dining set. There's no point bringing it. We have better dining sets that we can bring in 3ds Max if we have a need to do interior, but there's no need to do interior, so we need to move. So now if I come here and choose default shading, you can see that I don't have all those annoying black spots again. It's just when you begin to clean up everything, then your graphics card also will adapt, and you are cool to go. So this is cool. I don't like the white background, it's conflicting. So what can I do to change that? All I need to do is to click on the default shading and go to viewport background and change it to either solid color or gradients. I prefer the gradients. So now everything is cool, everything is nice. So in this same space, you can change to default shading as well, and it's having the background. Now to change between wireframe and default shading, you don't have to be clicking every time. So all you need to do is to be pressing F3 on your keyboard. You can see F3 will be switching from wireframe to default shading. Now there are some people that will press F3 and it will not work. It means that your keyboard needs second function. So you press Fn before you press F3. If I press Fn and F3, nothing will change. The only thing that will change is the volume of my computer. So it depends on the kind of computer you are using. So now I'm changing with only F3 and it's working. So let's check back to the default shading and change the background. So now we are set to start working. Everything is fine. So I'm really okay with this, and we'll start working in next video. Thank you.